Alrighty. So just as a reminder up at the top, same side, we have to simplify, right? Same side of the equal sign, simplify. Opposite sides of the equal sign, we got to do opposite operations. This is going to be really important for us today for this lesson, okay? We have to pay attention because we're going to be moving variables around, we're going to be moving numbers around, and we have to pay attention. Are they on the same side of the equal sign and we just need to simplify? Or are they on opposite sides of the equal sign and we need to do opposite operations, okay? So let's take the problems one by one here. So number one, okay? So I have to look, are there like terms on the same side of the equal sign? You might be tempted on first glance to say, well, oh yeah, I have 4x and 9x. Those aren't on the same side of the equal sign though. So we don't do what we see, we do an opposite operation. Okay, so let's get the variables together. So my opposite operation of negative 4x is going to be plus 4x. Plus 4x. So 10 doesn't have anything to combine with, so it hangs out on the left. Negative 9 plus 4 is negative 5x. Now I've done all my same side simplify. I've done one of my opposites. So let's go and do the other opposite and divide by negative 5. And I end up with negative 2 equals x. That one's done. Okay. Let's go ahead and look over at number 2. So we got some distribution happening here. So distribute on the left. 3 times 3x is 9x. 3 times negative 4 is minus 12. Okay. Over on the right-hand side, if you're ever doing a fraction times a whole number, just multiply the tops together, divide by the bottom. So 1/4 times 32, I would do 1 times 32, which is 32. And then 32 divided by 4 is 8. And I keep the x with it. And then 1/4 times 56, so 1 times 56 is 56. Divide by 4, and that's 14, so positive 14. So just multiply the tops, divide by the bottom, okay? And now that I have my distribution done, I look, are there like terms on the same side of the equal sign? And I don't see any, right? I have variables on both sides. I have regular numbers on both sides. So that tells me I need to go ahead and do my opposite operations. So in this case, when I have variables on both sides and numbers on both sides, it doesn't really matter what side you take anything to. Personally, I like to keep my variables positive, so that's typically what you'll see me do. If you want to keep your variables positive, you'll move the smaller one. So I would be looking to take this 8x over to the opposite side. So to get rid of an 8x, I would have to subtract 8x because that's my opposite operation. So minus 8x minus 8x. So 9x minus 8x is a single x. I'll just bring the negative 12 down and deal with it in a second. These are gone, which is what I wanted, and I'm left with a regular 14. So now that I brought variables to the left, you got to make sure and take numbers to the right. So it doesn't really matter what side you take stuff. You just have to make sure it's on opposite sides. So since the regular x came to the left, the regular numbers need to go to the right. So an opposite operation to get rid of negative 12 would be plus 12. And I end up with x equals 26. Okay. So what you don't want to do with x minus 12 equals 14 is say, okay, I'm going to bring the 14 over as well and end up with x minus 26. Because then you have this nothingness over on the right-hand side, and that'll get people really confused. Okay, so you got to be careful. You don't want to do that. You want to take them to opposite sides of each other. Okay. All right, so go ahead and try 3, 4, and 5. So pause the video, try 3, 4, and 5, and then you can play the video when you're ready for me. All right, so looking at number 3, I do not have any same side simplify, so I do my opposite operations. And since my regular number is over on the right, I'm going to take variables to the left. Since there's no regular number over here, I'm going to bring variables over there. So I'm going to subtract 3x, Negative 2 minus 3 more is negative 5x. These are gone, which is what I wanted, and my regular 10's left on the right. Then I do my opposite operation of divide by -5, and I end up with x equals -2. Okay, so there's number 3. Let's look over here at 4. So 4 has some distribution. So half times 6, that's just half of 6. So half of 6 would be 3h. Okay. Half of -4 is -2. I look on the right-hand side. Is there anything to simplify? Are there any like terms? Are there any parentheses? And the answer is no. So I'm just going to leave it as is for now. Okay, so I'm done with all the same side simplify. There are not like terms on the same side of the equal sign. So now I'm going to go ahead and do my opposite operations. So again, in this instance, I have variables on both sides, regular numbers on both sides. I can choose where I want to take stuff. I'm going to move the negative because I know when I do my opposite operation, I'm going to add it and it's going to turn positive. So I'm adding 5h to both sides. On the left, 3h plus 5h is 8h. Bring down your -2. H's are gone on the right, and bring down your +1. Now keep doing your opposite operations to get h by itself. So I got to add 2 over to the right. I have 8h equals 3. And then last thing I got to do is divide by 8 on both sides. And you can see that's not going to come out very pretty. So just leave it 3 over 8, or the decimal equivalent. Don't be freaked out when you get fraction answers. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. If you get a really ugly one, you might want to go back and check your work, but for the most part, if you get a fraction answer, it's not a bad thing. All right, let's go ahead and look at 5. All right, 5 is going to challenge us a little bit because we have a -3/4 that I'm distributing in. So remember, you got to multiply the tops and then divide by the bottom, which is a 4, okay? So we have -3/4 times 8. So I'm going to do -3 times 8. And that's -24, and then divide by the bottom. So -24 divided by 4 is -6n. So again, I'm multiplying the tops, -3 times 8, and then divide by whatever's on bottom. Okay? So do the same thing over here. -3 times 12 is 36. So -3 times 12 is 36. And then divide by the bottom. So -36 divided by 4 leaves me with -9. Sorry, get my pen out here. -9. There we go. All right, on the right-hand side, 3 times n. This should be our easy one, right? 3 times n is 3n. And 3 times -3 is -9. Okay, so I've done all my same side simplify. Now I'm ready to do my opposite operations. So like I said earlier, guys, I like to keep variables positive. So I'm actually going to bring my variables over to the right-hand side. I know that may look kind of weird to some of you, and some of you might always want to bring your variables to the left, and that's fine. We should get the same answer no matter what we do. So I like to keep mine positive, so I'm going to add the 6n since that's going to be my opposite operation. I'm going to leave my -9 over here on the left. 3 plus 6 is 9n, and bring down my -9 that was on the right side. So since I chose to bring variables to the right, I need to take numbers to the left. So I'm going to add 9, because that's my opposite operation. And here, that's kind of a weird thing, right? -9 plus 9. If you type that into your calculator, if you just know off the top of your head, that's 0. Equals 9n. And that's really nice, because when I divide, anything, or 0 divided by anything, is going to stay 0. So now I know n equals 0 for my final answer there. Okay, so that's how we deal. Those are as complicated as the equations are going to get. We have some distribution. We have variables on both sides of the equations. That's about as complicated as they're going to get. So let's go ahead and go to the back page and look at a couple word problems. All right, so let's look at number 6 here. So it says, unfortunately, a water pipe has started to leak in your basement. Plumber Joe charges, all right, so we have, looks like we're going to have 2 different people here, right? So Joe charges $45.75 per hour to fix it. And then we have a different person, Bobby, charges $60 to find the leak and $67.50 per hour to fix it. So I want to find the number of hours that it would take to make the cost the same, okay? So make the cost the same. That's going to be my x, right? And you may be asking yourself, okay, Mr. Craw, why does this even matter? Okay, if you're pipe bus and you have options between two different plumbing companies, you obviously want to find the one that's going to be the cheapest, right? You want to save some money. So that being said, if you can kind of estimate how long it's going to take to fix, you can figure out if you should go with the company that's more upfront but cheaper per hour, or if you should flip flop and go with the company that's cheaper per hour, cheaper upfront but more expensive per hour. Okay, so let's figure out what we should do here. So let's start with Plumber Joe. He was in red. So he has $45 up front, just one-time charge, plus $75 per hour, and X was the number of hours. Okay, and I want to know when that's going to be the same or equal to Billy, Bobby, Bobby's in blue. So $60 up front one time, plus $67.50 per hour, and that's where my X goes there. Okay. So you can see why this word problem fits into this section. We have variables on both sides of the equal sign, and I want to bring them to the same. So I'm going to subtract my 6750x. Okay, and then I have my 75 minus 6750, and that is 750. So I have 45 up front plus 7.5x equals 60. And these are gone now. Since I brought variables to the left, I want to bring numbers to the right. So I'm going to do another opposite operation and subtract 45. And I end up with 7.5x equals 15. I divide by 7.5. And I end up with x equals 2 hours. Okay, so 2 hours is when they're going to cross, or when they're going to be the same price. So if I think it's going to take less than 2 hours, I'm going to pay for the one up front that's more expensive. I'm going to pay for the one that's cheaper up front. Okay? But if it's going to go beyond 2 hours, that's when I want to make sure that I'm paying cheaper per hour, because after that 2 hour point, plumber Bobby is going to be cheaper because he's cheaper per hour. So that's kind of why that break-even point is significant. All right, so go ahead and do number 7 together with your, not together with your group. Sorry, I'm just in a habit of saying that. Go ahead and do number 7. Pause the video, do number 7, and then you can unpause it when you're ready. All right, so number 7 is nice. It gives us the equation, right? So we have 50h equals 190 minus 45h. And I have variables on both sides. So since I don't have any regular number on the left, I'm going to go ahead and bring variables over there. So I'm going to add 45h, which is my opposite operation. I have 95h equals 190. Okay, and then opposite operation, divide by 95, and I don't think that's going to turn, oh yeah, it is. It'll turn out to just be 2, right? So h equals 2 hours. So it looks like after 2 hours, you and your friend will meet. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and hit the lesson. Or excuse me, hit your homework, your assignment.